Welcome to OHbaby, We Got This, where we are empowering parents with expert insights and heartfelt stories and real talk. In celebration of International Women's Day, we're interviewing inspiring mums in business who are making waves while balancing motherhood. Today, we're joined by Gina Urlich, a clinical nutritionist specializing in women's health and infant nutrition, is founder of Nourish Baby Food, and she's revolutionizing how we nourish our little ones. Last year, Gina faced an unimaginable challenge, a rare cancer diagnosis that turned her world upside down. Today, she shares her journey of resilience, business, and health, proving that even in the toughest times, passion and purpose prevail. Hi, and welcome to the OHbaby podcast. I'm Angela, founder of OHbaby, and today we are speaking with Gina Urlich, who is a clinical nutritionist specializing in women's health and infant nutrition. Welcome, Gina.
Great. Thank you for having me.
So good to have you again. I think we should have you every week. I love hearing from you.
I'm sure we could find lots of things to talk about every week as well.
We can. Hey, so this week we're talking women's wellness and health and as part of our International Women's Day series. And we're coming to you who specializes in this. I love having these conversations with you. You're just so full of great knowledge and really coming from a holistic perspective as well. Just love that. So shall we kick in?
Right, thank you.
So can you share about your journey into women's wellness and what inspired you to focus in this area first off?
Yeah, so I started my career in nursing and I spent about 10 years working in a women's health hospital in South Brisbane in Australia. And I kind of bounced between maternity and a gynae oncology ward. And it was probably more so the time on the gynae oncology ward where I had lots of conversations with women who would tell me the symptoms that they were experiencing leading up to a diagnosis. And I just found it really interesting that a lot of these symptoms we kind of normalized as just part of being a woman. And so I started digging a little bit deeper and becoming quite curious around these kind of symptoms that so many women present with. And then I decided that nursing really wasn't the place for me. I really wanted to learn more about preventative medicine. So I kind of took this curiosity and went and did a Bachelor of Health Science and Nutritional Medicine. And then that really just expanded into women's health. I had student clinics where these women that were coming into the student clinics, there was all these kind of women's health concerns from polycystic ovaries to endometriosis, fertility concerns, and the list goes on. And I think that really just kind of started an interest for me, but I was also walking in the same shoes as a lot of these women. So kind of experiencing the same kind of things that these women were, like being busy mums or running businesses and things like that as well. So I found it really fascinating for my own personal growth and learning, but then also to be able to implement that into a clinical setting. And another 10 years down the track, I've been working in my own clinical practice with another nutritionist, working one-on-one with women who are going through these different phases of the things that present to us as women.
Yeah, common stuff. So what are some of the most common wellness struggles women are facing today, particularly mothers, but what trends are you seeing?
I think for the last 20 years, throughout my nursing and then throughout being a clinical nutritionist as well, there's been a common theme of lots of baseline things like nutrient deficiencies and which then lead to women's health conditions. But what I'm generally seeing with so many people is a lot of nervous system dysfunction. So we know that there's kind of like this stage set for women to, it's kind of almost glorified as women are super mums and they're doing all these things and running businesses, and it's not always working for us. I feel like we've, yeah, I can put my hand up for that too. We have glorified being busy, and our nervous systems are really struggling, and our nervous system is the foundation for optimal health. So that's probably the biggest thing, and we can unpack that further, but that's probably the biggest thing that I'm seeing within the clinic, and what I've been seeing for decades as well, is this nervous system dysregulation.
And so, yeah, I relating right now. So why do you think so many women are, suffering this? They're putting their health last. Like, what are the consequences of that? What are their symptoms? What are they presenting with? What is this? I think,
we're biologically structured to be caregivers first and foremost. So I think we do it because we care and we love. And mums and women that's what we do. And I think that's almost, we're doing that at the expense of our own health. And for the first time in history, we're probably seeing us giving at the expense of our health as well, and kind of putting our health on the back burn. And I did it, and I see lots of people do it. Your body's talking to you in symptoms, and it's giving you messages all the time. And if we're not listening to what our body's communicating with us, then it starts yelling at us in form of chronic disease as well. So I think really tuning into our bodies and becoming really intuitive with what our body's trying to tell us first and foremost, when we are getting these signs and symptoms. And it could be anything from having a heavy period to having bowel issues to having migraines and headaches, or not being able to sleep, feeling anxious. Our skin's a really good indicator of what's happening within our bodies as well. It often is a reflection of what's happening internally. So whether there's acne or dry skin or eczema or all this kind of inflammation in the body, I think we really need to just look at how our body's communicating to us, and then kind of backpedal from that and unpack it.
Oh, that's so interesting. I'm a lot more self-aware than I used to be, having experienced burnout, like you say. And I went on the keto diet, which I've talked to you about before, but I definitely notice when my body has inflammation now, and I know what to do kind of for me to reduce that. But my indicator is my hands. Like, if I can clasp my hands and kind of feel and like they go kind of white knuckled and stuff. If I'm like inflamed, it's like, okay, time to sort out.
Interesting. Yeah.
So gosh, there's so much there to unpack. You touched on like having a heavy period, being one of the symptoms. How does our menstrual cycle affect our energy and mood and overall health? Tell me about that.
Our menstrual cycle is like a barometer for our health. I think it just gives us so much insight. And I think for many years, we looked at a menstrual cycle as kind of a hindrance, like, it's something that we have to deal with every month. But I think it's something that we have, and we can really lean into it, and we can gain so much information about our health from it. And men don't have it either. So I think it's something that really gives us so much insight into our health that we can really lean into and learn from. So our menstrual cycle, when I say it's a barometer to our health, it is a predictor of health. So when our menstrual cycle's working really well, it's telling us, giving us feedback. And if it's not working well, it's also giving us feedback as well. And we can kind of break it down to the 4 different cycles within the menstrual cycle. So the first day of your menstrual cycle is first day of your bleed, so first day of a period, and that generally lasts from between 3 to 5 days. Some women it can be a little bit longer, but we say that the first 1 to 5 days is the menstrual cycle of the first start of the cycle. And this is when we generally have quite low estrogen and progesterone. We're shedding that endometrial lining. We can generally feel quite fatigued. And if that's how our body's feeling, then we really need to do exercises around how our body's feeling as well. This isn't the time to go do a big HIIT workout. This is when we really need to be grounded and go for a barefoot walk in the forest or do really gentle things like either walking or yoga or meditation. It's not a time to really exert your body. And then foods that complement it as well. So things that are really grounding, like slow cooked foods, really grounding foods, things that are really easy for us to digest, and foods that are really rich in nutrients as well.
And so there's 4 phases, right? Tell me about all 4. So we've got the period phase. What's that?
So it's the menstrual phase, and then after that is the follicular phase. Yeah. So the follicular phase is after our menstrual cycle. It's kind of like day 16 to 14. It's when our estrogen starts climbing up. We start to feel a little bit more energetic, and we're kind of leading into ovulation. So what's happening between the start of your period and the start of ovulation is going to impact ovulation as well. And so we're wanting to be really nourished during this time. So lots of antioxidants, lots of berries, leafy greens, proteins, and things like that. And then that's going to help with a healthy ovulation. And so then the third part of the cycle is ovulation, and that is the main event of the cycle. I think a lot of the time, like when we were at school, a lot of the emphasis was put around the period and how to deal with that. But I think if we learnt more around ovulation, would be a lot more insightful into our health as well. So ovulation is a predictor of health, and when we're ovulating, we get this beautiful surge of hormones that really support our health and is really great for our bodies. So when we ovulate, we have an increased libido, we have increased energy, our hormones are surged. We want to really, we've got the energy, so we go out and exercise and push ourselves. And then foods that you want to eat during ovulation are really nutrient-dense foods. So our body particularly needs things like iodine, selenium, and iron, and essential fatty acids. So things like salmon and flax seeds, really high nutrient-dense foods. Oh. And then the last phase is the luteal phase. So that's after you've ovulated. It's day 15 to 28 of your cycle. And you may feel, and it's the lead up to the next period. So you may feel that your energy levels start to slow down again. And this is where we want to then still go with the energy and the exercise and things like that, but really nourish ourselves with lots of things like magnesium and vitamin B6. And that could be why we crave chocolate before a period as well, because our body's really searching for magnesium, which is naturally rich in cacao. So that's the last phase of the cycle.
It's so fascinating. That's so interesting. I love that we can attach sort of foods that will support each of those kind of hormone changes as well, which is really cool. And then exercising around that. My daughter is really into kind of that whole cycle stuff. And so she's been educating me on the hormones, and she calls estrogen, the Beyonce hormone.
Yeah, I love it.
And progesterone is your Bob Marley hormone, just chill,
yeah, nice. Yeah.
And then testosterone was I can't even remember. I need to find out who that was, but yeah, it was just get at it, let's go. We can go for your big runs, your hits, and everything else. And when you've got higher testosterone in that phase, whatever that phase is. What is that phase?
So what was that? When you're feeling really energetic?
Yeah.
That's when you're ovulating and in the second half of your cycle.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's when I love the idea of exercising according to your cycle as well. I like I said to you, I just went up Mount Maunganui this morning. I'm doing it quite a lot. It's my favorite place to be. But I definitely notice, depending on where I'm at in my cycle, how fast I get up that hill. It's today's really hard. I'm not going to run down. I'm just going to cruise.
And that's the thing. I think when we're really in tune with our cycle, we can use it to our advantage. So the days that you're feeling I just really can't get up there, or it's slow, it's hard, do it slow. your body's wanting it to be slow. And then the days when you're full of energy and you can just fly up there, then like use that to your advantage as well. I think that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, it's so good. It's nice to, until I had kind of that burnout phase, I had really had no idea about my body. And it's only when you kind of get to a pretty awful time that you're like, okay, I've got to be in tune. I need, you can look after yourself, like, because you're the one feeling it all, right? So
Absolutely. And I love that your daughters are learning about this. I feel like our generation was maybe skipped. We learned a lot about periods, but we didn't learn anything about ovulation. And I feel like we're really seeing that now with women's health concerns. But there's a new generation of very informed females coming through, and I love that.
yeah, you're right. I think she's learnt based on my experience, like what not to do. And not being really open and honest and communicative in terms of you're like, yeah, no, you need to look after yourself. You've got to listen to yourself. You've got to, because I have PCOS and, fun stuff.
Yeah.
So doing good now. So for busy mums who are feeling overwhelmed, what's a simple change they can make to support their hormones?
I think we just really need to find out what works for us. And we're also unique in different ages and stages of having children. And I know for a certain period of time when you are not sleeping through the night, when you're getting up to tiny humans, that we just can't prioritize sleep. And I think taking the pressure off, knowing that this is a short period of time where I am going to have broken sleep, that we accept that and know that we don't put that pressure on ourselves. So I think really working with the age and the stage that you're at in your own life. And then just finding times in your life, because I know that everybody is busy, but finding times where we can find micro moments to rejuvenate. So whether it's doing some breath work, or it's getting up in the morning and going straight outside and looking at the morning light, prioritizing going to bed a little bit earlier and not being on our phones, like little things like that it doesn't have to be these huge wellness tips and things that we do with our days that take up a lot of time. I think it's just finding those micro moments where you can do deep breaths while the kettle's boiling, or things like that are really achievable, because we can often just get into the hustle and bustle and kind of really quickly forget about our own personal health. And that's kind of what we touched on before, is that we are caregivers. We put everybody else first, and then we're on the back burn. So it's finding those small tasks that we can do every day that aren't going to take a huge amount of time, that we can just fit into the day.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. I love that. You just talked about, getting some morning sun. That's your vitamin D, yeah? So just...
Or even just exposing your eyes to the morning light. So many of us get up and look at a screen, and it really affects us right from the word go. So if we're getting up and exposing our eyes to natural light in the morning, it's setting our circadian rhythm. And same thing at nighttime. If we're going to bed looking at a screen, we're not producing melatonin, which is going to give us restful, restorative sleep. So I think if we're looking at the nervous system being the foundation of optimal health and having a really balanced, grounded nervous system, simple things like getting up in the morning and looking at natural light, and then when you go to bed at night and not looking at a screen, really, really has huge ongoing effects to everything happening within our body. All these neurotransmitters that are being secreted and moving around our bodies are positively impacted by just simple things like looking at morning light and not looking at our phones before bed.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I think I'm guilty of that. I need to work on that one.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are. I've actually started getting up in the morning and just straight outside, I'll have my drink and I just sit, like, listen to the birds and not look at my phone. And it makes such a difference to starting the day, not looking at a screen and just being aware and having that's just a micro moment that I can fit into my day.
And it's not like, there's nothing on your screen on your phone that can't wait.
Exactly.
And putting yourself first, right? That's kind of cool. Okay, you've inspired me already. I'm going to do that.
It's a challenge.
I'll take a photo of me. Oh, wait, hang on. I'll send it to you. No, no, I'm on my phone. No, just kidding. Funny. So actually, if we go down and talk through like the burnout sort of side of things, so many women are experiencing burnout. I did in 2019, 2020. It was pretty rough. I'm going to ask you what the signs are. I can tell you personally. But like, what are the signs for our listeners and how can we prevent it?
Yeah, so burnout is really dysregulated cortisol. So it's either chronically high cortisol or completely shut down cortisol. And it's feeling fatigued, it's feeling irritable, and it's not just fatigue, like I'm a little bit tired, it's chronic fatigue. Like it's like you just need to go to sleep, but also being wired and tired. That's something that we often see is that there's no time to sleep and women are very wired and tired and still on the go, but still very burnt out. So as we kind of just spoke about, restoring that circadian rhythm, going outside, looking at that natural light, getting good sleep. We know if you're up with little ones in the night that you can't get that sleep, it may be going to bed an hour earlier so that you are getting a little bit more sleep. Maybe pulling back a little bit from the caffeine and the alcohol that's not supporting your adrenal glands. And then just nourishing ourselves, like basic human needs is sleep and nourishment and rest and being calm and some movement. So just those basic human needs, getting back to that.
Yeah, it's really hard when you're in the thick of it to pause and take a moment to like understand and know what you need. But listening to a podcast like this, it's like, okay, this is what you need at a basic level. Just make some simple little changes. Every little step towards change is going to be good for you, huh?
Absolutely. And if we just like have a think about what's happening within our bodies. So our hypothalamus in our brain is 100% like 24/7 asking, am I safe? And if there's any feedback going back to the hypothalamus to say, I'm not safe, then that has a flow-on effect to everything else in your body. It goes through the HPA axis. So that's your hypothalamus to the pituitary to the adrenal glands. And if you're getting that feedback that says, I'm not safe to the hypothalamus all the time, then your adrenal glands are going to keep producing cortisol. And then we have a flow-on effect that can then affect your thyroid, or it then says it's not a safe time to reproduce, so I'm not going to ovulate this month. And then when we don't ovulate, we don't get those beautiful hormones like progesterone that makes us feel calm and relaxed. So it's just a vicious circle. So I think when we can really support our nervous system with those little micro habits throughout the day, then the flow-on effects throughout your whole body and what's happening biologically throughout your whole body as well is profound. Like it's more than we realize.
Yeah. And exercise in that mix for a busy mum.
Yeah,
just
and
to prioritize it, huh? But
prioritizing it, but then also not overdoing it as well. We see a lot of over exercising and under eating, and that also causes a lot of stress on the nervous system. If we think about our brains asking, am I safe? Am I okay? What our brains are wanting to know is there food around? And is my life in danger? If we are constantly fueled with cortisol, and it could be opening your inbox and there's lots of emails there, and then you feel this urge to quickly respond, or like a pressure to get everyone out of the house in the morning on time, or just snacking on something and not having enough protein, then that's a natural response to your brain to say that I'm in danger. And so we're really wanting to just pull it all back, simplify it. How can I nourish myself today? How can I make sure that my brain knows that I'm safe? And it is just those basic little things that amongst the busyness of life that we just need to take a step back and say, how can I make sure that my body knows I'm safe?
wow, I so relate to that. That's so interesting. That's so interesting. Yeah, I so agree with this. Yeah.
And we see it a lot with fertility as well. Like obviously with fertility, it's all about ovulation. But if we're wired and tired, or if we're stressed, then we see that our body's not ovulating because it doesn't feel like it's a safe time to reproduce. So I think it really always comes back to that nervous system response.
Yeah. So, what's your advice for mums who are struggling with exhaustion, sleep deprivation, juggling everything? Like, kind of what we've already said ish, but
Yeah, we can also take some really beautiful supplements. There's really beautiful herbs that help support our nervous system, things like magnesium, some B vitamins. Like there's a lot of great supplements and formulations out there that can help support you in all of this as well. And when we're nourishing ourselves with a great diet and then filling in the gaps and supporting our bodies with some supplements, that definitely helps as well.
yeah, yeah. And what you're supplementing really is quite can be unique, but I feel like there's kind of like baseline ones that we kind of all should be taking anyway because we don't get them as readily in our diets, like magnesium, for instance. Is there anything
Yeah.
else you like vitamin D? I mean, we get it in the sunlight. We've got great sunlight now, but yeah, I've heard that we can be quite deficient in that too.
We are quite a deficient nation with vitamin D, and I think there's a lot of scared people putting a lot of sunscreen on as well, which obviously it needs to be safe sun exposure, but there also needs to be some sun exposure. So definitely wanting to get a good dose of vitamin D, and particularly through the winter months when we're not getting our skin exposed to the sunlight, then supplementing with vitamin D if it's not in the diet. And I
Mm.
would love to say that we get enough from our diets, but the way that our food is farmed these days, our soils are quite deficient as well. So things like selenium, iodine, in our soils in New Zealand are quite deficient. So if it's not in the soil, it's not in the food, and then we're not getting it into our diet. So for some things, and particularly when we're living busy, stressful lives, our body is going to need more of these nutrients and these minerals. That's when a supplement can fill in the gaps. And of course, you can't out supplement a bad diet. So supplement's not going to be the be or an end or and mean that you can eat poorly and take supplements. You still need to eat well, but then supplements are just going to fill in the gaps of what's missing.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me about selenium. What's so good about selenium?
Selenium's great. So you can get selenium from Brazil nuts as well. Just 2 to 3 Brazil nuts every day is a daily dose of selenium. But selenium's great for our thyroid. It's a major antioxidant. So we know that when our thyroid's performing well, then it helps with our neurotransmitters. It helps with our metabolism. So yeah, it's a fabulous nutrient or mineral.
So everyone is now the increased sale of Brazil nuts is now coming down straight to this podcast for your recommendation.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. So that's good to know. It's very inspiring. It's kind of like little things that you can do. I mean, taking a couple of Brazil nuts, every day sounds pretty easy. They taste good.
Yeah. 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 And the yum.
um, so I'm just thinking about what, our daily, if a mum is stuck, like a mum that's listening is feeling stuck in survival mode, very relatable. What's the first step that she should take towards better wellness? Like right now, what could she be doing?
Yeah. I think put the phone down for a little bit. I think a lot of us are online. Go outside, expose your eyes to the morning sun, nourish your body with protein and antioxidants. So when we're looking at getting a macronutrients balanced diet, if we look at the palm of our hand, that's the size of the protein that we're wanting to be getting in at each meal. And then if we look at our three main fingers, how do you say these three fingers? That's the amount of fat. Yeah, that's the amount of fat that we're wanting to be getting into our diet. So that could be avocado, olive oil, nuts and seeds, coconut, and then fill your plate with as much non-starchy vegetables as possible. So, and then also making sure that you're having some fiber and carbohydrates. So that could be the size of the fist of your hand. So a piece of sweet potato or root vegetables, quinoa, rice, things like that. So that kind of gives you a bit of a base on how to get a macronutrient balanced diet with some protein, good fats, and some carbohydrates, and then really loading up your plate with those non-starchy vegetables. And and having 3 meals a day. I see a lot of women in clinic that eat the crusts of the kids' plate, or we have the leftovers from what kids don't eat. And I've been guilty of it too. We just like, kids have been served these beautiful lunch boxes, and then we're on the go all day and maybe reaching for a coffee instead of something to eat. So really prioritizing good food, macronutrient balanced. And then I think the key things is exposing our eyes to the light in the morning, not being on the phone before bed, trying to get as much restorative sleep as possible. And so that kind of lead up to bedtime as well, whether it's having a bit of a ritual where you have a bath or have a cup of tea or something, but preparing yourself for really restorative sleep and hopefully getting to bed before 10 o'clock. And if you've got children that wake up in the night, then even earlier, and you can get an extra hour's sleep before midnight. Those hours of sleep before midnight is the most restorative sleep.
It's good to know. Not sure if I get too much of that now. That's really interesting. I love this. Yeah, it's all small changes, but it's important, huh? So we're looking at, you know, your macronutrients and stuff. What are the biggest nutrition mistakes you're seeing women making?
Probably not getting enough protein, and skipping meals. I would say that we often skip meals. So trying to get balance. We want to balance our blood sugar levels throughout the day. So that means having good fats and proteins in our food, in our meals, and then also regular meals as well. So try not to skip meals. When our blood sugars are dysregulated and peak and trough, then we crave sugar, or we crave something for a quick amount of energy. So really trying to have macronutrient balanced meals frequently.
Yeah, that's so good. So gut health wise, tell me about probiotics. And, you know, they say that your gut is your second brain or something. I've heard that said, and that, you know, gut health really shows up in your life as well in terms of emotional health and everything else, as well as hormonal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Tell me about that.
Yeah. So I can't remember the exact percentage. It's between 70 and 80% of the immune system that is housed in the gut. So when we think about that, that's a huge amount of our immune response that's housed in our gut. We produce neurotransmitters in our gut. So it's also incredibly important. And then those neurotransmitters go on to help release hormones. So when our gut function is out of balance, or we're not digesting food properly, we're not absorbing nutrients as well. So having a really good diverse microbiome, so that's having fermented foods or probiotics, is going to help diversify the microbes in your tummy. And then those microbes, one, make nutrients for you, but then they also help digest and absorb nutrients as well. So our food is only as good as its absorption. So if we're not absorbing these foods that we're eating, then we're not getting the benefits from them as well. So definitely gut health is the foundation for vibrant health alongside the nervous system. And when we have really good gut health, then we get the flow-on effects from that.
Wow, that's so important. So would you recommend everyone being on a probiotic full-time, or?
Not necessarily. So we can get really good diverse microbes from fermented foods. So things like sauerkraut or kefir, kombucha, they provide really good diverse probiotics. When we're using probiotics in a clinical setting, we're using specific strains to treat specific things. So there's strains that will treat eczema or acne or IBS, or things that we would use for endometriosis that are quite specific and targeting a specific need. But when we're looking for just general health, just a really good fermented food, we have a really nice kefir and a kvass actually that is fermented, and it just provides a really good diverse range of microbes.
Yeah, that's so good. I've started putting a sauerkraut into kind of, just a little side bit on my plates in the evenings, and It's not my favorite, but
And you really don't need much. It's just a little bit. And it's just such a superfood. Like, I don't really use the term superfood very often, but when we have foods that are alive and supporting our health like that, then just a small amount goes a long way.
yeah, so good. So are there any sort of powerhouse foods that you'd recommend for boosting energy and supporting women's health? So we've got sauerkraut. Let's go.
Yeah, sauerkraut's one. So the high intensity foods that I kind of go to are things that have the most nutrition per gram. And when we look at foods that have the most nutrients gram for gram, liver is up there. Gram for gram, it's the most nutrient dense food on the planet. And that's why we have it in our Nourish products, because we can get so many nutrients into children with just a small amount. Yeah. So if you don't like the thought of cooking pate or cooking liver, then you can supplement with liver capsules as well. But honestly, like gram for gram, it's the most nutrient dense food in the world. And because it's a whole food, it's not synthetic, it's so bioavailable as well. So our bodies can absorb and utilize it. It's got all the cofactors in there that our bodies need to absorb and utilize. So that's one of them. And then also the salmon. It's great essential fatty acids. It's great protein. Also things like leafy greens, berries, anything that's colourful. And I think also just kind of leaning into eating in season. We know then with something seasonal, it's got more nutrients in it, and it's in a time where our body's needing it. For example, oranges being available in wintertime, being a source of vitamin C to support the immune system. So seasonal fruit and veggies, it's really important as well.
That's so good. That's so good.
And also eggs. I always forget eggs, but eggs are just a powerhouse. It's like a multivitamin in an egg. So we've got a protein in there, and then the yolk is just full of B vitamins and choline and nutrients. So you can never go wrong with eggs, unless you've obviously got an egg allergy, but an egg is great.
Yeah, yeah. As a teenager, I went off eggs and I stopped eating them completely. And when I started doing keto, I saw that just everything had eggs in them in terms of all the keto recipes. So I trained myself to eat it again. And now I can eat like just a fried egg or an omelette. And I'm so proud of myself. So funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so good. Yeah. And protein. And it's a good start to the morning to have an egg.
Yeah. And when we're looking at a serving, like an egg would be 7 grams of protein. So if we're wanting to get like 20 grams of protein per meal, we're wanting 3 to 4 eggs. Wow. So just unless we've got another source of protein in your breakfast, but that's an example of getting a macronutrient balance. So having 20 grams of protein in a meal is kind of the goal.
So I've heard something like you should aim to get about 150 grams of protein in your diet a day. Is that right?
Yeah, if you're looking at on an individual level, like if you having about 1.2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. So if there was a 60 kilo woman, then it would be 1.2 grams of protein per 60 grams. So yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's good to know. That's a lot. It's actually really hard to get that much protein into your diet. You've got to be quite intentional and really think about it. Yeah?
Yeah, you really do. Yeah.
I did put it into Chat GPT recently. It's just like, how do I get this much protein in my diet? And it like spat out like this is how you do it. Here you go.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
Write me the shopping list.
Yeah, and it's just getting some really good recipes that you can go to, or kind of being prepared as well. I think if you've got some snacks that have protein, or a good protein bar, or a shake or something like that you know you can just boost that protein requirement throughout the day with a protein bar or a shake.
Yeah. So I just want to go back to your range of products with liver in it. Tell me about putting that into my daily mix.
The Nourish, like the smoothie booster.
Is it something that, I could just do myself, not just the babies?
Yeah. Well, obviously our target market is early life nutrition, but we have a lot of people that mums that are using it themselves as well. So there's definitely no hard rule to say that it's only for children. And it's hugely beneficial for anybody in the family. And a lot of like the meal booster, the bone broth, and the smoothie booster can be used for all ages and stages. It's just that we kind of market to early life nutrition.
Yeah. And just pop it in a smoothie.
Yeah, yep. You just pop it into a smoothie, a couple of teaspoons, and you can kind of double the dose if you're an adult as well.
Nice. That sounds awesome, actually. So we're just going to close off, but a couple of things. If you could give a woman one piece of wellness advice that they should implement today, what would it be?
It would be to really be honest with yourself and how you can support your nervous system a little bit more. And I think I'm saying that because we're seeing it through our clinic, and I saw it in the hospital when I worked there, is that there are a lot of wired and tired women. There are a lot of people that are giving and caregiving for other people before themselves. And so really taking an honest look at how you can support yourself a little bit more and supporting yourself in this with the same love that you give out to everybody else.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah.
And it's really hard to do as a mother when you've got little ones and you've got family to look after and careers and passions, then it's really hard to put yourself there. But if you don't, then everything else is going to fall away. So it has to be a priority. I think, yeah, it's not just a thing that we do. It's redefining it as it's a priority.
Yeah, absolutely. When I experienced burnout, I had the question posed to me, what do you need? And I had no idea. I couldn't say what I needed at all. It was, I could tell you what my kids need. I could tell you what my staff need, what the boards I was on need, what, everyone else in my life who I was looking after needed. But for me, it was like, I have no idea. No idea. And so at a base level, knowing how I was feeling, all the symptoms that I was experiencing, it was like, okay, at a base level, I need my health and wellness. And so that was an easy beginning to start that ball rolling in terms of prioritizing me just for my health and wellness. And then it's gone into a bigger journey, but it's been so worth it. And that is like your baseline priority and need is pretty important.
And you're using the word priority. There's some things that we can't change. Like we can't change that there's 24 hours in a day and there's a certain amount of things that need to happen, but it falls back on our priorities and our values. And it's not values in terms of being kind or those kind of values. It's values in what we do in our daily lives on the day-to-day that supports our health, and how do we prioritize that so that we are fulfilled and filling up our cups.
And I think the other thing I learned out of that was that once you're prioritizing yourself and your health and your wellness and your nutrition, it overflows into your family. So, Absolutely. The diet that my kids eat now is so different to what it used to be, my educating around health and wellness and nutrition has flowed on to them, and they're making good choices. So you're actually, you kind of are the center of their world, and what they're seeing through you, flows on to them. So the stronger, the healthier, the prioritizing of ourselves is modeled for them, which we want, really.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we want them to do that for themselves eventually. We don't want them to be a mum that was exhausted and didn't care for herself. And we don't want them to be mirroring that when they're older as well. So I think what we can show them now and how we support our own health is something that then they're going to pick up and mirror.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can vouch for that. I've seen it. Yeah. I've got older kids though, but nice. Yeah. So where can listeners find your resources, products, or support for their wellness journey?
So we have an online clinic. So it's at ginaurlich.co.nz. And we do one-on-one consultations, either initial consults or the mini ones. The mini ones can just be having access to some really good practitioner grade supplements. And then the Nourish products are at nourish.co.nz, and that's more around infant nutrition and starting solids.
Nice. That's so good. Hey, it's been an absolute pleasure. I love everything that you talk about because having experienced it myself, I just really have an affinity to what you're doing. The things that you're doing for women is just amazing, and everyone should come and have a consult with you who's, listening to this and thinking, heck, that's me. That's my nervous system. That's my burnout. That's my, I'm not prioritizing myself. And, even if it's beginning with some good supplementation and diet changes and stuff, and having a consult with you and the team is a fantastic, great start to their own health and wellness. So get amongst it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So that's a wrap on this episode of the OHbaby, We Got This podcast. If you loved it, don't forget to hit subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your parenting crew. If you're wanting more OHbaby, then dive into OHbaby magazine, available in digital and print format for expert advice, must-have products, parenting tips, fashion, recipes, interiors, and lifestyle inspiration. Plus, jump online and subscribe to our email newsletter for weekly pregnancy and baby updates right through to school years. You can sign up online and explore expert content, real parent stories, and so much more on ohbaby.co.nz. And hey, don't miss out. Check out our YouTube channel for even more parenting goodness. And we'll see you next time because, trust us, you've got this. Okay.